before we start the show, I just want to say a massive thank you to Foundation Devices for sponsoring the show and also for creating my favourite hardware wallets. They are fully open source and absolutely beautifully designed and made. Use the code BITBYBIT for $10 off. Nice to have you back on.
Pleasure to be back on. It seems like 5 minutes ago, but I did check and it has been nearly a month. So with all of the madness that's going on in the legacy finance world, time seems to be speeding up somewhat. But yeah, nice to be back. Just the two of us today as well.
I know. Well, as we said, there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, and one of those crazy things is we caught Antomouses shitcoining, so he is now off the team.
Yeah, he DM'd me out of the blue and said if I was interested in buying any Ripple.
Oh, really?
Yeah, needless to say, I had to kind of, obviously let you know first and foremost as the host of the show. But yeah, I passed on his offer for now. So maybe if he repents, we might see him back next month, maybe.
Well, it was funny because we both texted each other at the exact same time. He'd been trying to sell me dick pics, but on the blockchain. And I was like, mate, I wouldn't even want them if they're free, just fuck off. And then you write to me saying, oh, he's trying to sell me Ripple. So I don't know.
It was weird the way that he did it as well. Like, he just sent me a picture, like the Trace Mayer thing with Nimble Wimble. He didn't text me or anything. There was no text. He just sent me a photo just saying Ripple going to the moon. So I just thought it was a really weird way to go about it. But yeah, hope you're okay anyway, Antomouses. And if you've been compromised, just blink twice.
Right, well, moving on from that shitcoiner, what else have we got on the news today?
I suppose the main news we should probably briefly talk about is the impending banking collapse. We've had 3 US-based, I think they're all US-based banks, fail, in the space of 2 weeks leading up to us recording today on the 16th of March. The frightening thing is that these 3 banks combined, in terms of monetary value, are the total size of what collapsed in 2008. And there's been not much coverage about it. And back then, that monetary value, I think it was like 300 billion or something like that, brought the whole financial economy to its knees. And here we are now, and nobody's batting an eyelid that 3 US banks have kind of just gone under with an equivalent value. So feels like it might be the tip of a not very nice iceberg.
Yeah.
There's been lots of accusations thrown around about some of the banks that have actually folded have been more focused on the tech world and VCs, and some of them around cryptocurrency. And there's been some speculation as to whether this is part of Choke Point 2.0, where Mr. Biden's plan to kind of over-regulate the crypto industry. And there's been some speculation to say that, perhaps the banks weren't in as bad a state as people are saying they are, and that this is kind of like a targeted attack or takeover.
I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, we're never going to know, but I think it sounds a bit far-fetched. I mean, there is reports coming out to say that, these banks were mismanaging their capital and they were overexposed to treasury bills, which used to be a safe thing to do if you had a lot of money, and we were in a low interest environment. But the Fed's been raising rates, and that has the opposite effect if you're holding treasury bills. At least that's my understanding of it anyway. So these banks kind of got fucked by the Fed, and the nature of the business that they do is that they're supporting startup companies that kind of draw a lot of their reserves fairly quickly to kind of build a company and pay wages, etc. So I quickly ran out of money and had to fold. That's the very sort of simplistic version of what's gone on. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably going to be a more contagion after this, because banks tend to be quite interlinked. And I know yesterday I was seeing Credit Suisse, obviously a Swiss bank, creaking as well. So, yeah, going to be an interesting one to see unfold. The interesting thing was that the Fed, I think it was the Fed, have stepped in and said that they're going to make all depositors completely whole again, even if their account balance was over the $250,000. Yeah, even if it was over that, it's like, yeah, we'll sort you out. So I don't think they're going to do that for shareholders, but for depositors. So if you're a company that has an account with these and you've got maybe a couple of million in there, it sounds as though you're going to be saved. The flip side to that is obviously, where's that money coming from? It's going to be the taxpayer, whether they admit it or not. So they're just socializing all these losses. The banks get bailed out once again, and everybody pays for it. It sounds a lot like 2008.
I wonder why Satoshi made Bitcoin.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense when you see all of this going on, and it's like, oh yeah, Daddy Fed will just save me. Why do we need an alternative?
It's useless. There's no need for it. It's just this token, and there's no actual use case for it. And I think these banks failing just prove that.
Yeah, exactly. But in all seriousness, having, a larger proportion of your wealth stored in an asset that can't be fucked around with like this does help you sleep at night. I don't know about you, but it gives you a bit of a smug smile. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want a financial collapse, but having put in the work to understand how Bitcoin works and to see the value in it and to work in it day to day or in and around it, when you start to see the creaks of the legacy system starting to grow and the cracks starting to grow, it does give you a little bit of like sly satisfaction. I know that sounds a bit sadistic.
You feel like, oh, I'm so fucking smart. Do you know what I mean? You just pat yourself on the back and go, oh, fuck, I'm smart. Unbelievably intelligent. You're so clever.
But yeah, obviously, Bitcoin's got so many naysayers over the years, and, this thing's died according to the media, God knows how many times, hundreds of times. And, it's here we are, and ironically, the price actually pumped a good amount in the last couple of weeks since the
25%.
Yeah, we've seen a good little uptick. So, long may it continue.
I was surprised by that, to be honest. I thought people are just going to start panic selling and, when everything's going to shit and not really understand the difference of what this thing is. But it seems, at the moment at least, that potentially people are slowly waking up and maybe sellers are exhausted and, things
I think there's still time for that. Like I said at the start of the show, I think those 3 banks were the tip of the iceberg. When the shit really hits the fan, I do think we'll see a fairly big sell-off because, especially if you've got a lot of money in it, it's one of the most liquid assets in the world and you can offload into quote-unquote safe cash almost instantly, especially if you're willing to go through a regulated exchange, if you're somebody with, a high net worth. So it's understandable. And I do think we'll see it. Yeah. It's just a case of as and when, depending on which bank's going to go down next. And it certainly seems like Credit Suisse might be a hot favourite at the moment.
Hot favourite. Well, it just reminds everyone to hold your own keys, not fuck around. Don't leave your money in banks. They're not safe. The only person you can trust is yourself. So Q&A's got loads of guides on it and we talk about it on the show all the time. And if anyone wants any help, they can reach out. So yeah, let's get that done.
100%. And if you're going to do it in cold storage, head to foundationdevices.com.
Oh yeah, I hear they're quite good.
Yeah, they're all right, But in all seriousness, like if you do have custodial Bitcoin within exchange, don't wait around. Just get it in any wallet where you control the seed words first. Reduce that custodian risk and then look to buy fancy hardware wallets thereafter.
100%.
Let's head on to the actual Bitcoin list, shall we? So yes. Blue Wallet is shutting down their custodial wallet functionality as of April 30th. So you've got another month and a half before you do that. So if you download Blue Wallet today and you add the Lightning feature, by default, that is a custodial solution where Blue Wallet, through their own servers and their own Lightning node, custody all of your funds. So you can send and receive to whoever you want as long as they've got a Lightning wallet. Super simple setup, dead easy. The crux here is that you're not in control of that Bitcoin. It's under the control of Blue Wallet. So obviously a huge trade-off between usability and, because it is a massive headache in terms of running your own Lightning node and whatnot. So there are some gray areas in between where you can use like a great wallet like Phoenix where you are more in control of your Bitcoin. But Blue Wallet's been a hot favorite for Lightning in a custodial fashion. Now, for whatever reason, they haven't actually come out and said exactly why. I can probably make some assumptions in a second. But yeah, they're sunsetting the custodial Lightning aspect of their wallet. So if you do have any funds on Blue Wallet that are in a Lightning wallet, please get them shipped off to another solution. Again, I would recommend Phoenix if you're not running your own node. That's available on iOS and Android. So I think, again, I have nothing to back this on, but my guess is that they're doing this so that they are less in the crosshairs of regulators because essentially they're custodians of other people's Bitcoin at the moment. So I think that's probably one factor.
Probably stressful as well.
Yeah, the other one is like, it makes them a target for attack, doesn't it? Anybody that knows what Blue Wallet does knows that somewhere there's a server that's probably got a significant amount of Bitcoin that doesn't belong to them. So would make them a juicy target for an attack. So I just hope that it's replaced by something like the functionality that you have in Phoenix where you can kind of be the custodian of the sats that are on Lightning, but the app in the background kind of does all of the magic headache shit for you.
Like rebalancing and all that.
Yeah, rebalancing, opening and closing channels. I mean, don't get me wrong, you'll pay a fairly higher fee for that, but you do have a lot more sovereignty to boot with it. So it's a good sort of gateway drug to going from a custodial solution to before you do, go to set up your own Lightning node on something like a Raspberry Blitz. If you are going to move, I'd highly recommend Phoenix. I think it's great. So hopefully Blue Wallet are going to implement something that, their own sort of take on that in the future, where they're sort of not the custodian, but they do still offer the great UX that you get for the rest of the app as well. So we will see.
Yeah, that would be good. Not to bash on Lightning, but just to be completely honest with listeners, I barely fucking use it anymore. It ended up annoying me. I've run the nodes, I've messed around, I've tried doing everything. And after like a year of fucking around, I was like, especially when fees are low, I just use on-chain for everything. And if someone desperately wants Lightning, I'll just send that into a fucking custodial thing and then just bang it out straight away. And then I'm back to on-chain, in all honesty, because I just find it a little bit too fiddly and irritating at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm a lot like Odell, where my bullishness on Lightning kind of goes up and down, a lot like the Bitcoin price. I'll go through months where my nodes just don't work, they're unreliable, I can't get a Tor connection, payments are failing, and I'll just think, fuck it, I just give it all up, shut it all down and think, sod it, I'm just not going to use Lightning. Co-sign your message around on-chain, still king for me, especially when we got relatively low fees. However, when I do go through those trough periods of hating, sovereign Lightning, Phoenix is always there and always very, very reliable. Like I say, you'll have to chew through a few more fees to do it, but essentially you're paying for a service for them to kind of take all of that headache away. And it's fairly straightforward to kind of just download the app and just hit receive and it'll do it all in the background. So if you are in that sort of position and you're fed up with Lightning or you're just scared of running your own node, again, I know I've said it a lot here, but Phoenix is a great option.
I might have to try it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It'd be a nice option because it's stupid. I mean, I've got 2 or 3 nodes sat here, all with Lightning, and I'm just like, I can't be bothered to set it up again because every fucking time I get it working, and then because I don't use it a lot. I don't use it other than I receive some sats for the show. That comes into a custodial wallet. I'll send it out once every few months where I'm like, okay, here's 50 quid or here's whatever. And I'll send it out. And other than that, like I use it maybe once every 3 months or something. Someone will be like, oh yeah, can you pay with Lightning? And they particularly want that. I'm like, yeah, all right. And then I'll go to use Lightning and I'm like, my fucking node is down. Nothing's working. And then I've got to sit for hours messing around and reading through guides. And I'm like, this is not for me. So, just on chain, but that sounds like a nice option. And if I had more time, then yeah, I'll get these nodes up and running again. But yeah, people will probably attack me for this, but just got to be honest.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to mention about Lightning is, and I'm currently on the bullish tip of my never ending journey with Lightning, is I've completely fucked off Tor lately. And I've installed Tailscale on my node and on my phone as well. So I use Zeus on my phone with Tailscale, which is like just your own little VPN, basically, that if you're not at home, you can flick on the VPN and connect directly back to the node at home, which is, there's almost no latency. It's basically running over an encrypted tunnel, and it's just transformed the Lightning experience. Like, obviously, when I'm at home, I don't even need Tailscale. I just open Zeus and it connects via the local network, and it's lightning.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun, it's lightning fast. But even when I'm away from home, flick on Tailscale, just like turning on a VPN. Open Zeus, loads in like 2 seconds. Payments don't fail. It's been transformational in my personal experience with Lightning, and I've been using it a lot, just kind of dicking about with Nostr. I've been going down the Nostr rabbit hole quite heavily in the last couple of weeks, and obviously they've got a feature called Zaps, which is just like Lightning tipping for each little note or tweet that you send, and it just doesn't fail anymore. So that's testament to obviously Tailscale. Removing Tor, Zeus has been fantastic. That's come on leaps and bounds. Long may it continue, and I know I'm throwing like 20 sats here and there and receiving 20 sats here and there. So it's not exactly, I'm not like paying my mortgage with this stuff or anything. So very, very much still kind of very small amounts. So it's not exactly stress testing it. But the main bugbear I had back in the day when I used to initially set out to do this was you'd open Zeus, wait for Tor to boot up, hope that Tor was able to talk back to your node. Then you're talking 30 seconds. Then you'd scan an invoice and wait for that kind of handshake or communication to go on. That's another 30 seconds. All the meanwhile, somebody's like waiting for a payment. And if this is in person, it's fucking embarrassing. Where I'd feel absolutely confident now to walk into a coffee shop, turn on Tailscale, open Zeus, and have that payment done in 15 seconds.
Okay, well, that's a game changer then.
Big change. And Tailscale sounds really complicated, but depending on which node you run, a lot of them come packaged with it now. So you kind of just turn it on your node, download the app on your phone, which is essentially just like downloading Mulvad or iVPN or anything like that. It's just a different type of VPN. Punch in your kind of user ID, and you're away. It's literally transformational. So don't get me wrong, there is kind of a middleman. So if Tailscale decide that they don't like your account, then they could probably shut you off. They can't kind of alter your traffic or anything like that, but they could literally just cut you off if they wanted to. Whereas obviously Tor, you've got some better guarantees there where if you find a dodgy peer, you can pick up another one. But for the time being, working absolutely great, and it's all completely free.
Any good guides on this?
I think Orange Surf has done one actually. His is geared towards Umbrel, but the concept is identical for any other node package, as long as it's got Tailscale on there. And even if it hasn't, you can install it yourself. Like Tailscale is like one command to install.
Okay.
So yeah, if you head to orange.surf, I'm almost certain he's got a Tailscale tutorial on there, and I think it covers Zeus as well. So basically the whole setup I've just talked about.
Okay, maybe I'm going to go back down this rabbit hole again and waste some more time.
Not only like payment reliability, but the whole like connection thing. Once it's set up, I've never had to reconfigure it or anything. It just
amazing.
It just works. And if you've got like multiple phones, if you're a weirdo like me, you can install Tailscale on multiple phones and you can have Zeus on all of your phones if you wanted to, so that, you know, if you're going out with your main phone, you can still access your Lightning node, or if you're going out with your burner phone. Yeah. So great, really great option.
I love Lightning again.
I look forward to next month when you
definitely haven't done it.
And you've written a guide on it.
Me and Mr. Crown are up to our fucking eyeballs in stuff at the moment, so no room for that. But if I do get some time, I will fuck around with that.
All right, I look forward to the DMs asking for support. All right, next on the list, Seed Signer version 0.6.0. I think the name of this one is literally just Seed Signer OS. The headline here is that they have now, rather than kind of bootstrap on top of an existing Linux operating system and kind of throwing all their code on top of it, they've kind of built their own custom operating system that's customized and slimmed down purposefully for just what they need to do on the device. So, you know, you've got reduced attack vectors there, and I would imagine significantly improved performance as well. So good to see that they are heading down that path and removing dependencies and whatnot. Some other parts of the updates, you can now actually remove the micro SD card after you start up. So if you are of the super paranoid variety and you're kind of always had a worry where you had the Seed Signer operating system on the SD card and you booted the thing up, you had to leave that SD card on there because that's what it was using for, like the storage and whatnot. If you were super paranoid, you'd be like, well, hang on a minute, how do I know that this code isn't going to write the seed to this SD card? And then what if somebody nicks my SD card? So very paranoid, very hypothetical, but it's definitely possible. And in fact, somebody has done it just to prove that it's possible. So now with this update, once you've booted the device, you can rip the SD card out. So before you even load any seeds into it, after it's powered on, take the SD card out and everything runs in memory on the device itself. So again, just another step to kind of remove a theoretical attack vector. So good to see. They've also added BIP25 deterministic seed derivation. So something that we talked about quite a lot on the podcast, where you can have one master seed and then go ahead and generate any number of child seeds so that you can Uncle Jim your friends and family and know that full well that they're not going to back up that seed because they don't understand the importance of it when they're starting out. And you can kind of help them recover in the event that they lose access to their phone or whatever. So great option. Good to see more wallets supporting that one.
Do you have any sort of insight on how many people are using BIP85?
Ultimately, we'll never know because any BIP85 child seed is just a normal seed. It's just been derived from a master one. So if you looked at a child seed number 3 from my master seed, it looks identical to my master seed. So you can't tell. My gut feeling is that until now, you know, the only place you can access that is Coldcard, my seed tool that I built with Superfat Arrow. Well, now Seed Signer, obviously. I think that's it. So, you know, by the very nature of how limited access it is, then I'm going to say there's not that many people using it. So I think it will become more and more important, though, as we head towards the, you know, the proverbial mass adoption, if you like. The onus is on us as, existing Bitcoiners to start to leverage this. So I think as more and more tools start to add the features and functionalities and make it easier to do that, I think we will start to see it start to grow.
With all this banking stuff going on, a couple of the people who I managed to orange pill have reached out to me, and they're like, okay, no, I do actually want to hold my own keys now. And one of them's got like a large amount, more than I would ever imagine holding. And they're like, can you help me set it up? And I'm a bit like, I don't really want the responsibility, because if you fucking lose your seed words or you don't hide them properly and someone sees them and gets access to them, I don't want them to keep it on exchange. But I'm like, if it all goes wrong, it's going to be on me, even though it's not really, it's going to be on me that they've lost everything. And so if you had something like that, well, I suppose then they're still storing their seed words. They can still fuck up. And then you could still be blamed, actually, in that case. There's no way around that.
Yeah, the way I look at BIP25 is it should be additional. So in your scenario where they should still have their own seed backup, and then you are just there in a doomsday where they've lost their cold card and they've lost their seed backup, you're there as the third option to kind of help them recover. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I see it. I mean, obviously, if somebody comes into their house, caves their head in and takes their seed words, then, the fact that it's a BIP85 child seed of yours makes no odds, does it? Because the attacker's just going to throw their seed into a wallet and sweep it.
I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well. I don't know if you get this same fear. If you're onboarding somebody and they're in control of their keys and they have their seed words and they're responsible for keeping them safe and they're a boomer, do you ever get worried, like, if they fuck it up, like, I don't know, they stupid, even though you tell them not to, they take a photo of it, or they leave it lying around somewhere, and for some reason someone sweeps it, because you help them set it up, they're going to come to you and be like, oh, everything's gone. And they're going to sort of, in the back of their head, think, oh, was it them? There's going to be that mistrust of like, well, they're the only person who set it up with me. Do you ever get that worry?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is only ever to be used in a trusted environment, and you should be, if you are an Uncle Jim and somebody, you should explain the trade-offs with BIP85 and say, look, this is being derived from my child seed and this is how it works.
I don't mean BIP85. I just mean in any scenario, you go and set someone up and you explain to them, fucking keep your seeds safe. And for whatever reason, someone sees them and sweeps their wallet because they haven't been careful enough, they're going to be mistrusting of you. They're going to think, well, you set me up, so it's gone. And they're going to think it's you. It's not actually you, but they're going to think it's you. Do you ever get worried about that scenario? And is there, there's not really a way around it?
There isn't really a way around it, but if and when I ever do it, I don't want to see the seed words. If they're confident that they want to do it on their own, I'll just say, right, write these down. I'm just going to walk out the room. I've got no interest in seeing them. That I've never seen them. Take them with you. You're on your own then.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it is quite an intimate thing to do, is help somebody set up a Bitcoin wallet, isn't it? So, there's still got to be some level of trust. Like, I'm not going to do it with some randomer in a coffee shop. So, yeah, difficult one, but I think, you can mitigate a little bit by just explaining these 12 or 24 words are the keys to the kingdom. Only you should see them. We're best pals and I still don't want to see them. So, write them down, take them away. You're on your own.
Yeah.
It's just an education piece, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. That was a tangent.
And the last part of the Seed Signer update is they've now got support for pay to Taproot signing. So you can use Seed Signer to send to Taproot addresses, not used for receiving just yet, but most wallets are just doing the sending to first, as it's much easier to implement. So good to see that they've jumped on the bandwagon there. And yeah, good to see the project going from strength to strength. Next on the list, we've got Stack Wallet V 1.5.44. which is a wallet that we've never talked about before. It's a multi-coin wallet. No idea how many different coins they support. Crucially, they do support Bitcoin. And they've just added support for BIP47 paynims. The interesting part about this, other than the fact that it's another BIP47 wallet, is that Stack Wallet is cross-platform. So this means that we now have BIP47 on iOS. The first ever wallet to do. So we now have all of the bases covered. If you want to interact with paynims, you can use Stack Wallet on iOS, you can use Samurai Wallet on Android, or you can use Spiral Wallet on desktop. Spiral Wallet obviously works on Mac, Linux, and Linux. So literally all of the common platforms that are used on both desktop and mobile now have at least one option to interact with paynims. fantastic to see. I actually had a play around with Stack Wallet, and I do quite like their user interface. It looks, I don't know if it is actually a fork of Blue Wallet, but it looks fairly similar in respect of, they've got like the cards across the top that represent your different wallets with your transactions listed underneath. Fairly clean UI, and yeah, just huge news that they've implemented Paynims. So for, quick TLDR on Paynims is it's a simple way to be able to send and receive Bitcoin to a new address each time without having to directly interact with the person that you want to pay. So let's say Max is one of my employees. He could send me his payment code. And from that payment code, I would be able to privately derive as many addresses that I wanted to so to pay his wages each month. I don't even need to interact with Max. His payment code is enough for me to say, right, here's his address for January. I'm going to pay to that. Here's his address for February, and so on and so forth. So a really great way for repeat payments and also for donations as well, where, if you're a popular project that wants to receive donations and you might have thousands of people wanting to donate to you, there's quite a big overhead to manually generate a new address each time to make all of those Bitcoin receives. Whereas if you just posted a static payment code, anybody else with a Bit47 compatible wallet, the ones I just listed, will be able to pay to you without any direct interaction. So yeah, just love to see it.
Yeah. By the way, you asked last month, Paynim logins on Lincoin Pool, is it possible?
Auth47, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I asked Mehdi, and he said he's going to look into it. He said he's not sure, but he's going to look into it.
Yeah, there is an existing standard, not been implemented widely yet because it's pretty new. But if you are listening to this, Mehdi, yeah, there is a standard somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where it is at the moment, but it would be cool to see it, especially because they've got that existing pay-in, payout functionality. So.
Also, on the mining tip, Block are going to be bringing out an MDK, a mining development kit. And this comes off the back of, do you remember back in, it was like 2021, they had a tweet come out from Jack Dorsey basically saying they were going to start building a mining system based on custom silicon. They said that it was going to be built in the open and be all open source. And so since then, they have started to build their own semiconductor chips. And now they're talking about bringing out an MDK. So that would be like the BDK or LDK, Bitcoin Development Kit and Lightning Development Kit, all open source. And they are looking for people to get in touch with them to sort of give suggestions. Any devs or home miners or people who want to build in the space, they could be contacted at mining@block.xyz. So that's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, definitely. Block are quickly becoming kind of a bit of a behemoth in the space, aren't they, with their fingers in lots of pies. So they got the upcoming MDK that you just mentioned. We've got LDK, BDK. They've got their hardware wallet coming out.
Got a design thing as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they've got their finger in that pie as well. So yeah, they're kind of branching out, and they seem to be doing things with the best intentions as well. Especially with like BDK and LDK, that's completely open source and kind of laying the building blocks for wallets to come in, in years to come. So yeah, they've seemed to be making some quite big strides in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. I mean, they say the MDK will consist of a hashboard, control board, open source firmware, a software API, and a web front end. The goal with the MDK is to help developers integrate Bitcoin mining into heating systems, optimize Bitcoin mining hardware, and help intermittent power applications. And like I said, they're building it in the open and trying to get people involved. So it definitely looks like it's going in the right direction. It's pretty exciting to see.
Love it. We'll have to wait to see how it unfolds. Yeah, so next on the list, we have Craig Wallet's finally... Craig Wallet?
Craig Wallet.
Craig Raw's finally pulled his finger out and gives us another release. He has released Sparrow Wallet 1.7.3. Headlines for this one, we have the implementation of Bitcoin Secure Multisig Setup, or BSMS, for key store, export, and wallet import-export. My understanding of BSMS is it's an import and export wallet format so that you can go from Sparrow to Nunchuk to Keeper to whatever, take all of your shit with you, all of the wallet metadata and whatnot. And I believe it's kind of more geared towards if you have like collaborative solutions where you're not the sole key holder. Obviously, it does work for a traditional multisig as well, but it all encompasses with the extra information required if you're kind of like one of 4 different people in the multi-sig or whatever. So that's good to see. I know Nunchuck uses that. Obviously, Sparrow Wallet do now. I'm pretty sure Keeper Wallet have that on the horizon as well. So we'll be looking to see that the hardware wallets also kind of move to support this as well. Another cool part of this update was that you are now able within Sparrow to configure a custom block explorer URL in the preferences. So when you double click on a transaction within Sparrow Wallet, you can have it open to your local copy of mempool.space, which is super cool. And I think that that request came from our boy, Mr. Finch, who's a regular on Twitter and Nostra. So yeah, really great feature and love to see it. Yeah, there's nothing worse than, having the most private setup and then double clicking on a transaction and you realize you haven't got your VPN turned on and you're pinging mempool.space with your transaction of 10 million sats or whatever.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So you can now configure this to so that it goes directly to your own custom block explorer URL. So that could be on a local network, or I'm not sure whether it works over Tor actually. I'm guessing probably not, but most people are going to be using Sparrow when they're at home anyway. So local URLs will be just fine. There's loads of others in this one. The last one I want to mention is there's a warning and request user of confirmation before enabling the use of a BIP39 passphrase. So I don't know whether you spend much time in the Sparrow Wallet Telegram, Max, but aside from all of the inscription questions that have completely wrecked the chat in the last couple of months, the most common headache that new users have when they're coming in and using Sparrow is that they don't fully understand the difference between a passphrase and a password. Obviously, one is crucial for access to your wallet if you apply it. Well, they're both crucial for access to your wallet, but they kind of interact in different ways. One's a key to a lock, and the other one is kind of the map to your Bitcoin. So he's added an additional very explicit warning around, before you enable the use of a passphrase to hopefully mitigate some of this. So if you are a new user that doesn't use a passphrase and, you hear people like us talking about passphrases, please be very, very careful when you're doing that. There are literally no incorrect passphrases. That doesn't exist. So if your passphrase is Bob123 and when you actually create the wallet, you enter Bob124, you're going to create a valid wallet with that passphrase Bob124. You might send all your funds in thinking that your passphrase is 123 and then come to recover in a year's time and be completely locked out of your Bitcoin. We see it all too regularly. So big fan of passphrases. You just need to be super, super careful. And just like with any new wallet, when you apply a passphrase, send a tiny, tiny amount in, wipe all that shit, and then recover it, enter your seed words, enter the passphrase that you've just created, check that you can see your funds again. That will guarantee you that you have the passphrase recorded correctly. And for the love of God, make sure that you back it up as securely as you do your seed words as well.
His little image thing that he was talking to me about, this should help people know that they're in the right wallet, shouldn't it?
Yeah, so that was, we talked about that briefly last month, where he's introduced a thing called Life Hash, which is essentially a visual representation of your wallet. So like I say, there's no incorrect passphrases. So each time you add a letter or a number to your passphrase field, it will change this image slightly. So let's say, again, you type in Bob123 as your passphrase. In Sparrow, when you do that, you'll see a little square image that'll have lots of different vibrant colors. You're like, okay, well, it's like a green background. It's got a red circle in the center and there's some dots around the outside. That's kind of like my visual representation of my passphrase Bob123. Every time that you reopen Sparrow and to access that wallet, you'll be asked to enter your passphrase. And if you enter Bob124, that image will look completely different. So it's your visual indicator to go, oh shit, something's wrong here. Let me delete that passphrase, retype again, Bob123. Oh shit, yeah, I recognize that image. Good to go. Let's open the wallet. So yeah, really great implementation. That was out in previous 1.7.2 and then the additional warning now in 1.7.3. So once again, Mr. Raw taking very sensible steps to make a very usable wallet that's also very feature rich as well.
He said to me when I had him on the show, he feels passphrases should be seen as an advanced feature. He feels that a lot of people trip up with it. So I guess that's why he's doing that. And I've never really seen it as that because I've managed it. So I'm like, well, it's obviously not that fucking hard. But I do understand his point. It's like, well, it's just one extra thing to trip someone up with. And maybe when someone's starting out, unless you're going to be constantly there to hold their hand and double check and make sure they don't fuck things up, maybe it's best that they don't start with one.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't urge people to go for it from the off. Just get used to handling 12 or 24 words first, get used to recovering, and then further down the line, then start to look to a passphrase and just be cognizant of the risks involved. And like I say, practice, test net, or just, send a small amount in, wipe it, recover, do that a couple of times, get really comfortable with how all this stuff works before you start sending your life savings in there.
Yeah, agreed. Can I pick your brains on something, please, mate?
Fire away.
We've talked about this before. Seed splitting. You've told me, I think in the past, don't do it, it's a bad idea. Andreas Antonopoulos has told me, don't do it, it's a bad idea, it's stupid. I've never really understood why. Antonopoulos said, don't do it. More importantly, Q&A has said, don't do it. Just don't fucking do it. But then the other day, someone was talking in one of the groups, I think it was Seed Signer, and someone said, oh yeah, what I'm going to do is split the seed. And I'd written, I don't think this is a good idea. I'll send you a link. And I sent him the Andreas video. I don't really understand why, but here's an explainer. And they were like, no, you're wrong. Here's a link to something else and blah, blah, blah. You're wrong. And I was like, probably am. I haven't got time to fucking look through all this stuff. So I thought I'd ask you, why is it a bad idea if you're setting somebody up? Is it actually, or is this just like something that people say and it's wrong?
So it depends on the implementation, as always, with Bitcoin stuff. So if you're just naively, you've got 24 seed words and you split them in two. So, you give me 12 words and you keep 12 words, separate locations. You think, great, super secure. What you do there is, rather than having one single point of failure, which is 24 words, what you've now got is two single points of failure that if you lose your half, we're fucked. And if I lose my half, we're fucked. So if you just do it like that, then it's, a ridiculous idea. Nobody should do it.
Yes.
The next way to do it is with a scheme called Shamir's secret sharing, which is essentially, you can look at it like multi-sig for your seed words, where you can use this scheme to split your seed in such a way that, let's say it splits it into 4 different parts. And the way the scheme works is that you would require, to reconstruct that seed, you'd require 3 of those 4 parts to get back to the main seed, which obviously is significantly better than the example I just gave. The problem is that this isn't widely adopted. I think only Trezor implements Shamir secret sharing. So if you are going to go down that route, then you're kind of somewhat limited in terms of the tools that you have to kind of easily reconstruct that seed in a doomsday scenario where somebody does lose one of the pieces and you're down to 3 and you think, shit, right, okay, I need to sweep this wallet now and start fresh. So that's generally speaking why it's not that recommended, is because just not that many wallets have adopted it. That's basically it. You do have some other advanced stuff called like multi-party computation, where you can, it's not necessarily seed splitting, but it's kind of using a single seed, but splitting the access to any number of people so that you need a threshold of them to be able to sign a transaction. I don't really know a lot about that scheme, but it's not strictly seed splitting.
But that's all complicated stuff, mate. What I'm talking about is like your first example of splitting a seed and only having one copy is fucking stupid. Totally with you. The other stuff you're talking about there and Shamir's secret sharing and whatever the other second thing you just said, it just sounds complicated.
It is, yeah.
The other option someone would have is, okay, you have your 24 words and you also have passphrase, and you could keep those in separate locations, right? That's the other option where you'd be like, okay, that's an extra step where someone needs not only seed words, but also your passphrase. They could be in separate locations and you could have multiple copies just to be on the safe side. So you're like, okay, that's a pretty secure thing. But if someone was like, okay, I like the idea of that, but I want to go a step further, literally split my seed word so it's like 12 in one location, 12 in another location, and I have multiple copies. I'm pretty sure people have said, oh, it's less secure because if someone gets hold of the 12, then actually they could then guess the other 12 by doing some computation stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, maybe, but they still have to find the 12. So it's no different to them finding the 24, because if they find the 24, they've definitely got it. Whereas if they find the 12, it's a lot fucking like if I found 12, I'd be like, well, I don't know, fucking guess the other 12. Jesus, I've got no idea how to do that. So most people wouldn't. So is that not safer other than the fact that you now have more locations but you'd have that with multi-sig or whatever anyway. Do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, agreed. So in the example you gave where you're doing this over multiple locations, so you've got the first 12 words, 3 copies of that, one's at my house, one's at your house, one's at your parents' house, then yes, you're removing that you've just introduced more single points of failure. The flip side to that is that you've got shit in more locations that's exposed to more people, that's more at risk of theft. Obviously, if you have split it, like you say, just getting 12 of those words doesn't give you a lot, but it gives you something. So for me personally, still wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to go to that trouble where you've got access to multiple storage locations, then just use multisig. It's a far more widely adopted standard. You've got more threshold for...
Yeah, but it has its issues, doesn't it? Because you're hiding in a smaller crowd. It's, I don't know, like it comes with trade-offs, doesn't it? Whereas I feel like this, it's still single sig. You're just splitting your risk a bit more. I don't see that it's more dangerous as long as you understand how to keep physical properties secure, which I think more people have an understanding of.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, like I say, I personally would still favour multisig in that scenario because you can, most people don't have access to more than 2 or 3 safe locations where they can keep stuff. And I'd feel far more confident leaving a secure hardware wallet at an offsite location that's one of 3 keys in my multisig than I would some bare seed words. So yes, you've got extra stuff with multisig, obviously backup descriptors and whatnot, but we are edging closer and closer towards a unified standard for that. So I don't know, seed splitting just feels a pretty archaic way of doing it for me, especially when, as much as I don't urge newcomers to go towards multisig, but especially as easy as it is getting now with tools like Sparrow and Spectre and whatnot to kind of spin this up. It just feels like a more robust setup that's got a lot more fault tolerance so that you can quickly rotate out and you haven't got loads of just seed words in plain sight here, there and everywhere.
That is fair. One final, and then we will close this, I promise. This specific case where I'm saying I've got a bit of a specialist who is much older and I'm worried about them storing 24 words somewhere on a bit of metal and someone seeing them, but they do have access to lots of locations. They have many, many properties. They have loads of different warehouses all over the country. They're much more comfortable in the physical world. In that one specific scenario, is it still a bad idea to say, right, rather than storing 24 words in just one location, split it and keep multiple copies, 2 copies of these 12 and 2 copies of these 12, you've got 4 locations. And as long as you don't have a problem and people don't find all of them or 2 of them the right to, you're better off. Is that still, would you still be like, nah, don't do it?
Tell you what I'd rather do, just popped into my head now. I can't believe I didn't mention it earlier. Encrypted backups. Get yourself a hardware wallet like a Passport that has an encrypted backup feature, right? So what you do, Passport obviously holds your seed words. You can pop a micro SD card into the top and save an encrypted file that contains your seed words on that micro SD card. It'll then give you a 20-digit code, which is the password to access it. Okay. So you can make 20 encrypted copies of your seed words, each on a different micro SD card, litter them around the globe. The physical SD card is useless without that password. Custody that password, put it in your password manager, keep on some paper in your safe, and get it tattooed on the inside of your leg. I don't know, keep it wherever you want to keep it. You can then, with some, encryption guarantees, keep those SD cards at all of your 20 different houses if you're that rich. Anybody that sees it, first and foremost, is going to see an SD card and think, oh, it's probably got some pictures on it from a holiday somewhere. They're not going to think Bitcoin. Pepper them everywhere if you want to. All you got to do is keep that 20-digit code safe. Let's say 15 of your houses burn to the ground at the same time. You've still got encrypted backups at 5 different locations, taken to the extremes here, obviously. So just go to the 5th house, grab the SD card, pop it into your Passport. You've recovered your Bitcoin.
Brilliant.
You haven't got loads of plain seeds in plain sight. You haven't got to worry about which order the seed words go. What was the passphrase on the wallet? It's, far simpler option for me.
Brilliant. Yeah, that is better. Okay, we've sorted it.
Job done. That was good. It's good exercise actually. And what we got next on the list? This is a cool one. Literally hot off the press as of yesterday. Ronin Dojo, the team behind the Tanto, the beautiful Bitcoin node, privacy-focused Bitcoin node, have now expanded their sovereignty offerings, I guess, and they've started selling Google Pixel phones running Graphene OS or Calyx OS. You can kind of choose in the store. So if you, again, one of the many rabbit holes that people go down when they get into the Bitcoin space is kind of, they realize that Google and Apple are knobheads and they want to kind of, take back a little bit of digital sovereignty with their phone, because it's probably the device that all of us interact with way too much day to day. So if we can, still have a great usable phone that comes with the good security that kind of Google spends millions on each year to make their phone secure, but do that in a way that Google software doesn't have its tentacles in every single thing that you do on your phone, then this is a fantastic option if you want to do that. So it runs completely open source software by two independent teams called Graphene and Calyx. What they do basically is they take Android and they strip out all the Google shit and give you a more privacy preserving option. So to touch and feel, these feel like standard Pixel phones running Android, but in the background there's a lot of the tracking stuff all stripped out. So if you don't kind of want to buy a Pixel and build this yourself and put the software on it yourself, you can go to the Ronin Dojo shop and they kind of have pre-built ones that they'll just ship straight to you. So yeah, really great option. I've ran both Calyx and Graphene OS. I run a Pixel 5 with Calyx OS as my daily driver. So yeah, good to see that there's some more sort of plug and play options for people that don't have the time or the patience to kind of go through the flashing process to buy a Pixel from Argos and then go and put the software on it themselves, which is very easy, I must add. Take no more than half an hour, but some people just don't want to go through that. So if you're one of those people, head to the Ronin Dojo website and get yourself one of these devices.
There's one extra reason I think this is quite nice. I haven't checked, but I presume they accept Bitcoin only for these devices. And that does mean that as long as you're doing things privately and you're using like postmix or sats that aren't linked to your identity, then ordering one of these is much better than going into a shop like most people would do and buying something with your credit or debit card, because it's getting harder and harder to buy with cash and not have things linked to your identity. So it's quite nice to have that option where you can have something delivered and it's not linked to you, other than Ronin Dojo have your details, but you could also send it to somebody else and have that link broken.
Yeah, definitely. And if I was a betting man, almost certain that Ronin, the team, will be purging their customer data. They're clearly, a privacy-focused team. That's at the heart of everything that they do. So I'm sure that they'll be purging those order details very quickly after they ship. So fantastic option. My only gripe is that they're not shipping to Europe as of right now. I know that's coming soon. So if you're in the US, get your hands on one of these right now.
Okay. For the people in Europe, just go with cash is probably the best thing, or get gift cards with cash and then go into an Argos or something like that and buy it.
Yeah, definitely. It's still possible, but as you say, it's getting more and more difficult to get a phone that isn't tied to your physical identity. So fantastic option. The final thing I have on the list, which is probably going to be a bitter pill to swallow for some people listening to this, because by the time that you release it, I'm sure it's probably going to run out.
You're such a cunt. When you're listening to this, just know that none of this information is useful.
Yeah. There is a Samurai Wallet S code, a Whirlpool discount code that can also be used in Sparrow Wallet to get 25% off your Whirlpool fees up until March 17th, which, as we record this, is tomorrow. So if you're reading this and thinking, oh shit, then maybe keep your eyes on Twitter a little bit more, or in the Telegram room as well, and keep your eyes peeled for the next one. But yeah, you just missed 25% off your Whirlpool mixing fees. So
yeah,
sorry.
The pool was lovely. I've been dipping in.
Likewise.
Unbanked is the code, which you're not going to be able to use. So
I'm just going to check what the post-mix liquidity is doing. I haven't seen an update on that lately. Let me just quickly pull the number up, because I know we mention it pretty much every month. Typical. I can't find it on Clark Moody's dashboard now. Whirlpool unspent capacity 6,702 Bitcoin.
Ooh.
So we are, we're still in the, I can't remember what the all-time high was, but I don't think we're that far off that. So I still think we're on for the 10,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, especially with Straylight and whatnot, which we've talked about before. I'm sure there's going to be a few more Whirlpool clients coming on board this year. I know Stack Wallet are working on it. We were talking about them before with Bit47. So that'll bring Whirlpool to iOS as well. So I think 10K Bitcoin in post-mix liquidity is going to be a fairly safe bet.
Exciting stuff. Well, yeah, as I said, gutted you can't use it, but keep your eye open. And they seem to come around sort of every couple of months generally. That's when I tend to see them, every few months.
The Samurai team are great at leveraging current affairs to tie into their S codes. So this S code is, the image literally says, while the financial system melts down, enjoy 25% off your whirlpool fees with discount code unbanked.
Very
Obviously,
nice.
Poking a bit of fun at the fact that 3 of these banks have gone down. So yeah, great to see. And hop in the pool.
Well, we just wait for the next bank failure, so you won't be waiting long.
See you next week.
All right, mate. Have we covered everything there?
Yeah, ticked all my list off. So I'll just wait for the next text off Antomouses, I guess, to see if he wants to buy any Dogecoin.
NFT dick pics. Yeah, fuck that guy selling me that shit. All right, mate. Well, I'll catch you on the next one, and we may or may not have Antomouses back.
Awesome. See you next month, mate.
Cheers, mate.